It should be recording now. Okay. Hey people, I'm Undercover Raiders. I haven't spoke to you people in a while since, well, the last thing I posted was, Lost Souls. But anyway, spit that detail out of the window. The last explanation you guys may remember me doing was for Tale of the Four Foxes and what you're to expect from that series. For this one, it's a project I've had in development for a while before Tale of the Four Foxes. I only made like 1 minute's progress and just hadn't touched it for the rest of the time. Which I started thinking like, bro, why have I just stopped touching it? Like, wasn't I working on it like at one point back in July? Yes, it was July I started working on it, and it's flaming October now, so that's gonna be embarrassing. Hey, I was a little off because I've actually not long since woke up. But anyway, yes, this movie is a Special Strike inspired thing. Well, I'd say Special Strike inspired. There are a few pieces of Special Strike that linger in it. So the Chief being in it for a start as the main villain and the General. Those are the two Special Strike individuals that have shown up in the story. Which, God help me please, I don't even know how to do much filming. I've only just started learning how the little layers thing works, so that'll be handy. Extremely handy, to be honest. Just gotta make sure I've done everything correctly. But, yes. Tale of the Four Foxes will still be happening. If anything, that first episode of it will be out before I start messing with the Sister Location movie again. Like I said, I don't know how long I'll make the movie, to be honest, either, because I keep thinking to myself, if I make it go over an hour, and an hour's the maximum for Flipperclip's capabilities, I'm gonna have to split it up in pieces, which is gonna take longer development, but hey, howdy do, doesn't matter. But anyway, like I said, if any of you know how to combine like videos in your photos, that'd be handy. Especially for what I'm really in need of right now. But anyway, I'm going to try and explain everything I can about what I'm intending to do with this film. Like, I do plan for there to be 3 of them. But I can't make too many promises. I may end up stopping after the first or second. But like I said, my intention is 3 of them. I do like doing projects quite a lot, so I do blow myself up with them, so there may be a chance I'll do 3 of them. But like I said, that's my planned goal. Also, yeah, do check out Hot Bob Man because of the Special Strike, because that was made by him. This is just a Special Strike inspired film. So, yeah. The thumbnail that you're witnessing is the only character that I've had to trace was the Chief. He was the only one I traced off the internet. The rest of them I've just drawn by hand myself. I did say that my older designs I'm not fond of, but hey, you have what you work with. Just upgrade them enough to your liking, and then boom, boom. Simple as that. Like I said, you'll be very familiar with the designs of the foxes in particular, so the designs of myself, well, Ryan the Fox, who is one of the Chief's generals at the time, and, well, Funtime Foxy. Because, like I said, 2 characters, I can't say my words right, I did say characters correctly though, didn't I? I had to keep claiming throw out Jesus. Alright, I had to explain this whole story. Me realising as well, another thing, there's a massive difference. Because of my design improvements, when I get back to work, my designs will have changed. So the thumbnail won't look so legitimate, as there'll be a few missing details. The reason why on the thumbnail, like Ryan doesn't have a tail, because I don't have enough room to draw it on there. Yep, this is what I had to work with. It's a pain, I know. But besides from that, besides from Bonbon looking tiny as, tell me about it. Well, he's small anyway, so no one will notice. But like I said, and as well, General does not look good at all. But like I said, improvements. Like I said, this 1 minute process I did will have been like since July before I started upgrading my designs. So once I do release it, you will notice the slight difference I've done since July and, well, up to, well, quite a while now. Like I said, I should have just continued regardless, otherwise it would have been there by now. But I wanted to toy around with Flipperclip's capabilities anyway, because I didn't want to, like, have an intention to make it extremely long, but then, like, well, get limited on what I can do, because this has happened to the Halloween special for Conversations in Disasters, which is happening on the 30th, which there may be another one on the 31st, because I am running out of blooming time. I really am. But anyways, enough of the shenanigans. I'll just get to explain the characters. So, the characters I'm going to start off is actually the good guys. I did formerly have the files written on Flipperclip as well, like drawn on. But then I think I deleted it. But I'll go over the detail. So first up we've got Ennard, who is, well, in each and every test location, alternate universe and timeline, like Blue Street Girls, my SFM universe, which hasn't popped yet, and probably a few others. Then obviously, you're going to be very familiar that he is the father figure of the animatronics. He is also seen within, like, the start of the film, in that little group meeting that Freddy hosts. And note to mention, I'll only be counting in the characters that you see more of. Like, so certain characters I won't label too much of. But anyway, then we've got Circus Baby, who is just one of said children that is in the series. She's just got that overprotective trait and whatnot, likes ice cream. Why doesn't it not surprise anybody? Okay, and then we've got Ballora, who is obviously the same traits as she would normally have. Often has her eyes closed, but in this timeline, she can actually see with them closed. She's like just that type of individual. I do question now in Sister Location Box standardly. Even though Ballora has her eyes closed, but she can hear your movement. She opens her eyes when she's jump scaring you in the main game. So does that mean that she actually does see you in some way? Via those flaming closed lids? And the next character we got is Funtime Freddy, so we're moving on to the fun times now. I wouldn't be able to say much for him, except that I'm going to struggle like absolute hell to do his voice, because a certain guy has pointed this out to me without... Sorry. And, like I said, I'm not going to diss him off because, well, he does think it's so good, it's just a little strange. But like I said, I've got to, like... Basically, for Funtime Freddy, it's like I want to do some kind of Marge impression, I think, for that. So, yeah, that's going to be fun. Next up, we've got Funtime Foxy, who is one of the foxes, which you'll be very familiar with, because Tale of the Four Foxes, and plus Sister Location. God help me, please. Right. So, besides from that point, we've got Bon Bon next, who is a little Bonnie hand puppet on Funtime Freddy's hand. I don't know if I plan to have him as a hand puppet. I know Funtime Freddy's going to have both of his hands regardless. Keep having to clear my throat this morning, I don't know why. No. Anyway, like I said, I do plan for Bon Bon to have legs, but then I don't know the sorcery inside of it. Like I said, I'll be able to work it out. Probably like give Freddy a little system where like Bon Bon could slip into where his hand is without taking that out of context. But like I said, like a little system. They're robots after all, so Funtime Freddy's hand would probably just descend.
I don't know that.
For some reason, it looks like I'm talking to it. But like I was saying, like, well, Funtime Freddy's hand can go down and Bon Bon can slip into the little slot. Which, yeah, it works for an explanation. Next up, we've got Ryan, which you may be thinking, hang on, he's on the opposite side. Isn't he supposed to be a villain? He is throughout the start, but then eventually, like, after a certain amount of time, the guy turns and escapes with the others, but the others don't trust him. So yeah, that was quite funny to witness. I really do look forward to making that scene. I don't know why. But like I said, he's evil. He's evil-ish to begin with, and then he turns good throughout the rest of the film. That's literally how it is. Which, yeah, that's gonna be fun. Like I said, he will have the iconic Robo arm that he normally has, or Robo hand. I don't know. But like I said, I haven't worked out who's going to be the one doing the process of him getting it. Because like I said, in order to give him the robotic limb, he's got to lose the limb to summit. So I was imaging this for ages. God, people can't show up today. Like, I've been imaging this for ages. Being someone showing up of that faction, the Shadow Army. I couldn't think of a better name, plus that's what they are technically anyway. And cuts his arm or hand off. But then comes out of exclamation, then like, who's it gonna be? Because like I said, it could either be the general or a shadow droid. It can be one of them two. See, if it's general, the general will have to run off afterwards. But if it's a shadow droid, then I can have someone kill it then, can't I? Because why not? But like I said, that's that shenanigans. And next character who is only seen for the start and Chief's flashback is Bun Bun the Rabbit. He looks like Spring Bonnie in the colour scheme, but they're both not the same individual. The thing was originally is that Bun Bun was like a brown colour before, but that is basically what I could say for him. And then I just decided to change him to a yellowy colour because, well, why not? Because I thought he'd look better in yellow than brown, because it's a pizzeria establishment, for crying out loud. For all we know, Bun Bun could like have the Springlock models. So, next up, if, like I'm not having to go through my bits, is, well, Freddy, who is basically only there at the start for a little staff meeting. Oh, I just realised I should have said when I was saying Bun Bun. His place in the flashback is like not that flaming quick. He's just there, and the chief just, well, kidnaps him and just uses his suit to get around. So yeah, back to Freddy. Freddy only appears like at the start for the group meeting, basically, and so does Golden Freddy. But like I said, there's a reason for why that version of Golden Freddy never showed up as frequent, and was only at the start. But like I said, Freddy was only around at the start to do the little staff meeting thing, or group meeting, or staff gathering, or group gathering, or whatever it is. And now I need to clear my throat once more. Sorry. Yeah, I'm the clerk quite a lot recently. Oh yeah, at that point we've got Burn Trap, who I just stuck there as a joke. Oh my, oh now I've got my cuckoo clock going. You can never find a room to work in, can you? Without things in the background just going. Yep, I'm just gonna slip out. I blooming hate cuckoo clocks. They don't shut up. I don't, now it shuts up when I'm in move. Right. But anyway, like I was saying, Burn Trap I just stuck in there as a joke really, because Grandpa Afton, am I right? Anyway, that's the rest of the shenanigans. I think that's all of the good guys by far. Although Burn Trap doesn't even count on any faction because he's flimming sleeping throughout most of it. And he was just supposed to be Bun Bun's grandpa, and that just made matters a little more funnier. Which I can easily just fix specific scenings when going through the designs. And never mind. But now we're just gonna go to the villains. Is the cereal floating? Yeah, whatever. Like I said, we'll go to the villains now. The first villain on the list is the Chief, who is Special Strike's antagonist as well. Like I said, this is Special Strike inspired, so yeah, you'll be able to make sense of it eventually. So yeah, the Chief, main antagonist, formerly known as Golden Freddy, yada yada yada. Like I said, I'm just fond as the Chief as a villain, and have since watching Special Strike for the first time, which I'm gonna be heavily honest. When I first saw Special Strike, I thought it was just a ginormous try not to laugh compilation or a giant meme compilation. And the Chief was obese, which you should know, all of you who knows who basically most of you should know who obese is, because bear with me. I have no idea what just happened. But like I said, I ended up mistaking the Chief for obese at one point, which, like I said, you guys should know him, because if you guys watch Hot Dog Man's channel, you would have seen him. But it turns out, I found that out since SSR, which I thought, oh look, Shadow Man's portrayed obese. I didn't even realise that it was that, like, the withered Golden Freddy was the Chief, and that was the Shadow General. Like, when watching SSR, I basically remembered RXQ, because I saw him in the Halloween special at one point before watching Special Strike, which I questioned why in the world he looked like that. Like I said, I watched SSR before normal Special Strike, but that's when I found out, when I saw Obese appear, I noticed him and the Chief are completely different individuals. So that was embarrassing. But anyway, talking of General, he's the next one on the list. Oh yeah, the General, who is one of the Chief's troops during that whole sequence, and funny enough, lower rank than Ryan is, as Ryan is only the commander of the Chief's armies. Rings a few bells, doesn't it? Because I've used this name blimming constantly. Which, Lord Ola, I really need to get some better names in. But like I said, the bog standard commander is in the, well, SFM universe. I just like to refer him as the commander half the time anyway, when he's a villain. So yeah, the General's just a low rank individual, needs his hat to live obviously, and etc, etc. And then we just got the Shadow Droids, which serve no flaming purpose but just to be minions. Yay. But anyway, with all that out of the way, because I don't think anyone else is to appear unless I was to do any daft universe crossing, which I will not be doing. Well, okay, I might. It depends what position I'm in, and like, if I want to do it like that. Oh yeah, the whole process will be confusing. I may possibly reference a few YouTubers in there as well, because why not? But like I said, that just depends how it looks during development and how it will look by the end. So, the next exclamation, I'll probably just explain a few of the parts of it in a simple manner, so I'm not giving spoilers out to when I create it, but I can give you guys a bit of advice, or just explaining how this whole thing is going to end up looking. So, let us get all of this over with then, shall we? Okay, so, yeah, the movie will just start with a clock ticking and Freddy sorting out the whole gathering thing, like I pointed out earlier. Why in the world do I keep hearing that thing? Whatevs. This is just going to be like part of like Caliph Raiders out of context or something. just everything around me just going off at once, and chose now to do it when it could have done it whenever I'm not recording. But anyways, yeah, the whole gathering went well. Golden Freddy just awakens, and that's just about it. That's the whole sequence of that part. And then there's just a conversation between Chief and General about God knows what. Basically, I don't know what it's over yet, but I'll need to rewatch it and then go through the development to make sense of the whole thing. But then comes the droid assembly, which I'm kind of close to doing. I've just got to record the Special Strike theme, the beginning theme as well, just before you ask, and well, just simply try and make it look good, because I don't want parts getting everywhere. And then comes your little title card, yada yada yada. You meet the commander for the first time, and stuff. So I'll continue going over this to you. Then we're just back at the rental, when the animatronics are just living their normal life. The sister location ones, by the way. And even though I did say Freddy only appeared once, okay, it might not happen, but I'm thinking about it. Freddy has only just finished talking with Anard about something very important. And obviously the kids had to be kept out of the way while this was going on. And like I said, there's just that one set of awkwardness that just means I've got to try and do things correctly with the children, and the entire process of the entire animating phase. It's yay. After a while though, the oh my god, that machine. I don't know if it's listening to me or someone else is talking to it. But like I was saying, the droids eventually kick said door down after literally just knocking Freddy out of the way. So that's why you don't see Freddy throughout the rest of the series, because for all we know he's probably blooming dead. Second or third may explain what happened. And let's just say that Anard managed to hide, but basically one of the children couldn't really get out of... I would say that, but one of them was just exposed, and that child was Funtime Foxy because of his tail sticking out, which was kind of a problem. So the droid just grabs him until all the other three come out to try and fight with these droids, but just realise that the droids are a few flimming inches bigger than them. Well, they may not look it when I draw them, but canonly and lawly, yes, they are flimming a bit bigger. So it just seizes all four children, and they just leave, because Anard's technically a lost cause. And they vanish, leaving Anard to have to go around and do something of it. We're going to be cutting back to, well, the whole process of the commander and general for a little bit, as basically said, the shadow droids come back, and this is after the commander goes off to do something quickly, leaving general to put the order of getting them into the cages, until eventually, after seeing on some monitors that they are not target animatronics. So obviously he knew that something needed to be done. The entire phase thing just came into play, and Anard was just trying to sneak around, but I can't see that going to any good cause when you think about it. just watch that go wrong. It does quite a few times. Well, anyway, Anard gets in eventually and has to sneak around technically. But at that same period of time, the commander was trying to undo the cell controls, which, after he eventually did so, basically after that, the general ends up walking in, which then alarms run, aka the commander, and he starts getting all guilty about the entire situation and just pretends to not have to be checking on the systems and nervously runs off until eventually the general hits suspicion as the children make a quick escape and get back to Anard with like no idea on who even released them, but it was someone in the Proximate. Like I said though, some of this is due to change. Like I said, I don't like to keep every little piece in one place. I do like to tamper around with them a little. So yes, eventually after that, they all run, and the chief is hit into a flashback sequence where we just go back to the past, seeing like the chief's past, which is very different to Hot Dog Man's version of it. Very different indeed, I believe so anyway. And well, I'll just explain it now. It's just like a simple case of like the entire problem just got out of hand. It wasn't really worth just, well, living in a universe if everything's imperfect. So, like so, he does eventually try to work out a way to do something about it, before eventually getting told on a specific website known as Glitch Trapped, which is apparently a glitchless website apparently, but this website may ring a few bells. Well, it does in a second anyway. So he starts looking up, and obviously Golden Freddy's mind is fueled with all the, well, information that is very false, and that just teaches you how to become a flimming villain. So he proceeds to get to work on that. Literally, like, getting an art in was one of the tasks, and uniting him to assist. Had to grab Bun Bun in order to get the suit, and, well, started building a few things with the general and the commander, and etc, etc. So, besides from the yada yadas, eventually after, like, the chief sees enough of his flashbacks, General walks in saying that they've got at least 4 prisoners that are partly what were requested. Only for Chief to make the check if they're even in the cage this time, because considering he knows who the general refers to, children are restless and they won't stay. And besides, they would have been small enough to just go through the gaps in the bars. So the general informs that they got the correct type of cage, and they are definitely in there. Only to see the cage is nothing but a bit of, like, empty dust, which Chief isn't taking the approval to. General with a guilty look on his face, of course, because literally they were in there, but now they aren't. But, due to what I explained earlier, you'll know who let them out, because, well, Sergeant Guilty made it very obvious. But anyway, the entire process just goes through to a point, and the chief triggers the alarm to go, literally alerting every droid to the area. And basically, while they're all running around like headless chickens, one of the droids went into the room where, funny enough, Ryan was in. And the droid didn't want to try and attack, but instead reason with basically who is a commander to him. But eventually Ryan just blasts the droid and destroys it. So he's just destroyed one of his own Empire members, and just escaped through the portal. Funny enough, basically, in the reveal in front of CCTV footage, which basically then reveals to all of us, well, I say to all of us, we all saw that coming, after the guilty look, but the chief basically sees it, and he isn't happy with it. General, just to take the mick, well, that's how I believe anyway, he just points the flaming obvious out, pointing out that Basically, they lost the children, and Anard's now got them back. And before he could say anything else, Chief just said, don't talk to him about the problem they are having. Only talk with him in this case if the General has a solution to the problem. Only for the General to say that the Commander, who's going to be known as Ryan throughout the rest of the film now as well, had also betrayed them, which the Chief kind of knew that, which he was not even happy to see the General just repeated it. And just went completely mad. Before eventually, thinking closely, there's only one place that the sister location animatronics can go and stay, which is likely where Ryan would have ran off to as well, to avoid the situation. There's opening some random portal to God knows where, points out that he believes he knows where he can look for all of them next, before we're cut straight back to the rental. After the children were literally just trying to get over the fact they've just been locked up once and they've just been rescued by some unknown individual. And that individual wasn't Anard. Anard was actually in the vents fixing something, but obviously Ryan was in the rental as well, but no one knew of his presence. So he did try to stay hidden as much as possible, because, well, he doesn't know how the others will act to his presence and the proximity. Eventually, though, one of them ends up noticing him before he basically legs it across a majority of the rental, with the other four chasing closely behind him. Due to Baby's face, I don't know if I've designed it, but like I said, she's not happy to see him. Basically, you can tell that Ryan didn't want to start a fight, because even though the commander inside of him allows him to have the ability to possibly kill them with one blast of energy, he didn't want to hurt them, because he's not that type of person. The guy hits a dead end, but thankfully he was above a vent opening. And, well, Anard takes notice and quickly grabs him, while the others run to this dead end just to see the guy had disappeared, which they kind of questioned for it. Both Funtime Freddy and Funtime Foxy are trying to convince Baby to just give it up, because think, even if this individual was there, he wouldn't have wanted to be harmed, and wouldn't wish to harm them. So eventually they walk back, but we see where Ryan was during the sequence. He was in the vent with Anard, which Anard had his hand over his mouth in order to, well, keep him quiet until the others were gone. Because, think, he'd be screaming and, well, panicking, because he just got grabbed and yanked up into a vent. After then eventually seeing that Anard's no harm to him, basically, well, first, he did have to, wait for Anard to remove his hand, which he did. Basically, questioning why did Anard save him, the fact was, Anard pointed out that if Ryan was to stand there and the others caught him, he would likely be killed in the process. Because, like said, the others can do significant damage once seen in a specific way. So, after the whole shenanigans, Anard keeps Ryan in one place for a little bit in order to avoid a possible situation occurring, because he needs to introduce him to the others, and the others need to be introduced to him, to be marked that he's not a threat. So yeah, that's just that one sequence, they just talk with each other and whatnot, and the entire introduction phase began. Anard introduced the others to Ryan, which Ryan was still trying to hide, because like I said, he's kind of not that kind of individual. The Chief kind of made a bit of a mistake in his workwear. Obviously, Baby recognized him, well, all of them recognized him actually, because he was the same fox they just chased down, and had just vanished behind a wall. Basically, he pointed out that he didn't vanish through a wall. He was beneath a vent opening, so Ennard just grabbed him to get him out of the problem. And they eventually did become friends, at least. And then they just got used to each other time after time. So it's just that simple living life phase, if I could say it. Then we are obviously brought in to, obviously, General having to give out the news by the chief's orders. He keeps repeating, he kept trying to turn on the walkie-talkie to get the chief to change his mind, but that wasn't going to happen. Sorry, General. Try again next time. But anyway, besides from that, after all that, the General explains that to engage the children at any means necessary, even if it means hurting them, get them locked up, and Ennard included. Jesus Christ, the bunch just scared. And if they do see the commander, yeah, they still refer him as the commander for a while, to do whatever they must to him. But do not, kill him, but just knock him out of summit, or just put him down to keep him out of the way. And then just dismisses them within an instant. So it means that the drones are running around like headless chickens once more. Yay. But then comes the fascinating part. The entire sequence of them all trying to do their own thing and whatnot. The droids ended up coming back. And, well, the General also came with them in order to begin a full-scale run. So, there is this massive fight going on. Until the General makes an order for most of the droids to retreat. Not that the droids were killed in the field, but one saw the commander, who had his guard let down. So pulls out this dangerous weapon, capable of removing the limb of an animatronic, and went running directly at Ryan, only to cut his hand off at a specific point. And obviously, you can see the guy shaking on the floor, crying a bit as well, because he's just had his hand cut off. Before eventually Ennard sees this one droid on the attack, before eventually losing his mind himself and hitting the droid, grabbing the axe, and then straight through the circuit wearing his head, dropping the droid down, before the droid continues to taunt the idea that the chief is already planning ahead of them, and just dies. Before lying on the floor, shaking, crying, and actually close to bleeding out, Ennard had to get him repaired at a quick state. So that's what happened. The entire phase was complicated because Ennard needed to remember the model that Ryan was designed. So he had to find an arm that would fit his, the part specifically. He does find a cybernetic limb that fits him perfectly, because he points out that there are other hands similar that are in blue, but none of them match his model, because his model is actually quite advanced. That was how the chief designed him. The entire process was on point. I just had to get used to a hand that literally is robotic. Like I said, it would take some getting used to. So that's going to be fun. The entire process is pointed out. General points out that they did fail, but one droid was with them and didn't come back. Before he disappeared through the portal, he did watch as the droid died to cutting the commander's hand off. The chief wasn't surprised, because the droid that died was just one that doesn't follow orders anyway. So it was probably for the best. Sure, he followed some order, and that was to do what he could to the command. Which, the entire process just became complicated. Well, yeah. That complicated. Planning ahead has to be put into place. So, the chief eventually just marks that the mech just needs its build-up, and that's all it needs. As he proceeds to do that. Meanwhile, later, the entire process, Ryan and both Funtimes were actually doing something at the time. It was quite fascinating, really. It's actually quite a funny little sequence as well. Well, that's how I've imaged it, at least. You can clearly see that they're trying to grab something from some vent. Basically, Ryan gave the order for Funtime and Funtime Foxy to boost him up. But the entire thing doesn't go to plan, because, funny enough, Ryan gets stuck in the vent. So that's quite funny. Witness. Bernard had to get involved in pulling him out, just to reveal that what they were trying to grab was something that explained why the chief had in fact sent General and a team of shadow droids to the rental just a few moments ago. The thing was hidden in the vent the entire time. The entire process made sense. The thing, Bernard had to gain a few looks to work out what this was about. Just seeing that it was just full of malware. Very clever tactic, if you do think of that itself. What do you know? After all that, the others just went to sleep, but in fact, something was not going to plan. Basically, what ended up happening was that a team of droids ended up getting into the rental while everyone was asleep. And literally, grabbed Bonbon and just yanked him away. And then they started to do significant damage to him. The funny part was that after they did so, they just left. Which Ryan was actually awoken by the noise and found Bonbon on the floor. But because he was the last person seen with Bonbon and the damage was seen by the others, they blamed it on him and lost it at him. Trying to point out this had nothing to do with him, as in fact, sure, his claws are sharp, but he would not harm anyone else. But eventually, after the others just wanted Ryan to leave, said, Baby in particular got harsh with him. Literally called him a specific name and just reminded him of who he worked for. And Ryan just ran off crying. He ended up leaving the rental and just didn't come back. After a while, Bonbon did get fixed by Anard, thankfully, but then Bonbon explained that he remembered who attacked. It was like two purple bears, and they ended up leaving, revealing that they were the droids. The guilt was that Ryan had nothing to do with the process, so it means that they had a go at him for nothing. So basically, Baby had just hurt his feelings for nothing. So they had to go work out where he was. You can tell he wasn't in the rental, because he was nowhere to be seen in the area, and the cameras would have had to have detected him in one of the rooms. It was revealed that he did run off to an exit, and then vanished. So they had to go look for him, only for him to then be found in an alleyway, on his own. Of course crying as well, because like I said, he is kind of hurt, so yeah. Physically because of his arm, or hand, or whatever it is, and his feelings. Well, like I said, working with the chief was just the worst experience he had, and he didn't wish to be. So that's how it can hurt him in a certain way. Thing was, eventually, a mercenary who the chief hired off screen, being none other than Springtrap or Scraptrap, I don't know which one to make it, probably Scraptrap, but they're both the same, so we'll just call him Springtrap for now. Springtrap shows up with two droids finding the fox literally just on his own, basically trying to bait him in, basically, after the entire shenanigan. And in the rental, basically, he tried to make out that the droids, he just hacked them to ensure that the chief couldn't control them and they'd just be his own personal bodyguards. But after refusing, to go with him, Springtrap isn't taking no for an answer, especially, if he's being paid tons to bring the commander in. Or as he prefers to be called, Ryan. So, he attempts to grab him. Successfully does so. And literally attempts to take him away through a portal. Only for one droid to get something thrown at him just enough that just takes it down. Being none other than a Nard with a A36 revolver. Yep. Where the heck does a Nard get that from? I don't know. So, again, after that entire process happened, Baby then just shots Ballora at the other droid, who was spinning in quickly just to get through the wiring inside of the drone's chest, and just took it down. But as for Springtrap, both fun times jumped on top of him, forcing him to drop Ryan to the floor, allowing Ryan to get back to a Nard whilst the entire phase happens. While Freddy's just there beating parts of Springtrap up, Foxy actually manages to bite his arm off, legitimately takes it off, allowing him to only have one arm. He throws them both off him, and obviously had no droids to protect him, and he was severely withered. So he just opened a portal and just ran off, and did not come back, leading to an entire process of just a nice little reunion, and them all just apologising and forgiving each other. Yeah, that is just interesting business. But the Chief will not take Springtrap's failure as an exception, as he has General prepare all droids for the coming final fight, which is what happens. So, whilst the General goes off to tell every droid about the final fight is going to be happening sooner than planned, it was going to be another 5 weeks until that fight started, but it had to start early because, well, Springtrap's now ditched him since his injuries. So yeah, they all go back to the rental. Obviously, it is revealed that because the thing is, Ryan was familiar with Springtrap. Basically, Springtrap was a paid mercenary animatronic. An animatronic mercenary, technically. And if he's no longer helping the Chief, then obviously the Chief's going to start the final fight earlier than anticipated. So that's when they do decide to set up for the final fight. They go to the spot where the Chief's going to be triggering this last fight to occur, but the place was just empty. No one was there. But that was only because the animatronics were there first. Think, it's let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 animatronics against an entire army. Which once the portal opens, they start preparing for the team, only to see an army of the droids come marching out. And this was only the first wave, which the General had led out, trying to threaten to give Ryan over to them and just surrender all the children, and no one gets hurt. But Anard obviously had a trick up his own sleeve. Remember that random A36 revolver he had, what he used on Springtrap's drones? He pulls it out again, but the General actually was quick enough to dodge the bullet, allowing the bullet to go right through the portal. Goodness knows where it went, though. Seeing the plan backfired, Anard ran out of ammo because that was his last bullet, so he just pulled off a Cade 6 move. No, I don't think it was a Cade 6 move, actually, but it would sound like him. But an obese move, he thought he'd get it one shot, but didn't even think that, like, the General is a bit more intelligent than a bog standard droid. So yeah, that just triggers an entire fight to kick off. So like you said, you just see them beating the living daylights out of each other and whatnot. Whilst the General was like, well, like I said, General just throws a few people around, and obviously droids have just been killed off left and right, before eventually attempting to blast one of the animatronics, Baby mostly. Right. The General then realises he didn't have his incineration beam with him. He did bring it with him, but he didn't know where it was, only to see Ryan had it in his hands the whole time, and used this one joke saying, common droids should not be using such high tech, and just blasts the General with the beam, leaving him nothing but his hat. Helping Baby up, it was like, apology forgiven. And so, the entire fight continued. The droids were still continuing to fall left and right. And obviously one ran into a portal like the baby he is. But as for Chief, he was just sitting around surveying the entire event, only to see what the droids came back. The thing was in pieces, but all the Chief was concerned about was the fight, asking how come the droid was not in the field. Pointing out that a huge number of droids have just dropped, and the General is down, because obviously Ryan blasted him with that flaming incineration beam, which is like that flaming powerful, it puts the mighty Jimmy to shame. So yeah. The Chief started to point out that's why it wasn't worth capturing the children all at once. That's why he planned to get them separately, starting with Ryan so that he could fix the problem he had, to get him to work with him again, and then capture the children as a separate stage. The entire plan was going out of the window, so Chief had to react. So he had all troops initiate Project SLX. SLEX, being Sister Location Extinction, which is just like a protocol the mech stands with. So, the entire process, although I could use SLX, because extinction, if I just put it that way. But anyway, the Chief then goes over to the mech, and the remaining droids prepare to operate the mech to activate it. And Chief goes back a little, but just activates the mech anyway. And the mech powers up, and it goes right through the portal and makes itself known. It just shows up. And this just makes the whole matter interesting. And continue. Yeah, everyone just knew that they were standing before a monster of a machine. The entire fight just proved complicated, so they had to try and dodge the mech at the same flaming time. So, Lord knows what's going to be happening there. But don't worry, I'll be summoning some other giant thing to be of assistance. I don't know who yet, but I'll work it out. And then after a while, the mech gets its, chest opening ripped open, allowing Anard to get into the mech and confront Chief from the inside of it. The Chief basically then turns around and takes high notice of Anard's presence, but didn't fire at him, when instead stood down a little bit, before engaging into a little conversation, literally pointing out that this is just a step too far. They were all a happier group back then, and all of this will just change absolutely nothing. If anything, it'll make Chief's problem worse, and it'll hurt a lot of people, even the ones he calls a friend. Pointing out that they've just got to learn to make a few sacrifices for the sake of what is right. I think also, Ennard knew what he was getting at, because life hadn't been that good for them. All of them were forced into separation, and Ennard was locked into a rental along with the children, and Golden Freddy once loved them. And besides from that detail, it was basically, they just revealed that Ennard eventually got over it eventually, knowing that he can just leave the rental to visit at any point he wishes. But the Chief still disagrees, and just saying that none of it is even right. He's just trying to seal up the open patch, making everything how they are supposed to be. Ennard immediately just realizes that the guy's trying to achieve something that's literally leading into absolute damnation. So basically, just suggests a forgive and forget, and literally can just walk out of the mech together, with the thing standing, and just literally get torn apart later on. But the Chief was not having this kind of run, so attempts to blast Ennard, and, well, first 2 bullets miss, but the third actually gains a hit. Which, like I said, he actually did fire away from Ennard on purpose on the twice, just to confuse him so he can get on the third. Only to threaten to shoot Ennard again, pointing out he should have listened, literally himself of knowing deep down that this is the right choice to make. Yeah, they start literally fighting, beating each other to death. The Chief did have the upper hand on Ennard, before Ennard decided to deactivate the mech's shield, which, if it had a shield on, why in the world did its mech chest get ripped apart? I don't know. It's probably just a laser-proof shield. Chief better explain himself at some point. But anyway, the entire process goes into play. The mech shields just deactivate. The mech just lives a life on its own for a little bit, trying to work out what in the world happened. And literally just gets blasted, which ends up like blowing Ennard and Chief up. But the Chief wasn't willing to go down yet, so tried to resist his death, but failed absolutely horribly. And, well, you watch the mech just blow to pieces, and you just watch it literally just collapse and blow up, leading to a massive detonation, which thankfully didn't kill any of them. If it killed anyone, well, yeah, entirely, all of them were looking for Ennard. Well, the Chief eventually just woke up after the entire detonation happened, and started to look around, and just saw that all the children were trying to find their father figure. All of them upset about it, including his own son. Yes, Ryan was supposed to have been his son, but he obviously failed him and disappointed him. Realizing that there's still one last thing that can be done, Chief gets up, but makes sure that he's not seen in by the others, and limped over to the wreckage that he knew Ennard was under, and started ripping through the mech wreckage, and grabbed the injured Ennard, and literally just threw him into plain sight, pointing out that maybe Ennard was right. And besides, he thought to himself that not everyone is the same, and then thought to himself that Ennard was a better father for Ryan anyway than him, before he eventually went down again and, well, died. When Ennard ended up waking up, and then noticed that he was not literally on the pavement before, but in fact in a lot of wreckage. Then obviously the others saw him, and, well, they were glad to see him again. Which then Ennard turned and looked directly at the chief's body. And he knew that the chief did manage to redeem himself a little bit. Considering basically he had literally pulled Ennard from the wreckage in his last moments, when he could have used his gauntlet to legitimately destroy all of them. So, besides from all of that, the entire sequence is set. But in another portal, we see Ballora, actually, who had mysteriously vanished throughout the fight. But she came back with what seems to be a broken lolbit. And that is literally the best I could say for the entire story without trying to spoil too much of it. I think near the end, I had started giving out massive spoilers because I just got carried away. And, okie dokes, how long have I been recording for? And, oh jeez, I think I've been recording for about a flaming hour. Jeez, this is like an entire flaming essay. Well, besides from a lot of weird things that went on in the background of my own household while trying to explain this to you all, this is the best I'll go, and as far as I'll go for the entire series. So, I hope to see you guys for its development. Like I said, 4 Foxes will come out before this, don't worry, for all you Tales of 4 Foxes fans who look forward to the series. So yeah, once I'm done with everything to do with episode 1 of Tales of 4 Foxes, and all of the stuff that I want to get dealt with, this movie will be in its development again. And it will be there, so I hope to catch you guys on the flip side. Also, do consider the subscriptions. It helps the House of Raiders grow a little, and it's like an entire brotherhood right now, so why don't you guys go ahead and click that button? Because I've not checked, but I do believe some of you that watch haven't subscribed, so without further ado, this is the Caliph Raiders, and I'm out of the playing field. Whee!